Growing up, we are strongly encouraged to try new things, to take a step outside of our comfort zone, and my personal favorite, to think outside the box. But when you're young and trying to figure out who you are, you don't really know what this means, or even if you want to try. We constantly question ourselves. Are we good enough? Strong enough? Smart enough? Are we enough? When we are young, we don't worry about this. We take risks all the time as we develop our sense of independence, danger, and the fun of exploring. We think that jumping off the swing at the highest point is too fun not to try, rather than if we do this, we might get hurt. But as we grow up, we start to realize the meaning, impact, and consequences of risk-taking. We begin to worry more about failing and our reputation rather than the positive benefits of developing our personalities. And it is because of our inexperience we choose to only see the personal downfalls of what taking risks might bring to us, rather than seeing all the possibilities ahead for us. What would you rather do? Choose a university because that's where most of your friends are going, or go to a university in a completely different city, country, or even continent? Now, I am sure most people in this room will pick the first. I mean, it is the safer option, seems more fun. Why wouldn't you pick the first? What if the school far away offers you your dream program? Now what? It's a hard decision. Many people in this room will choose the safer option. I mean, I can't blame you. Sticking with the familiar, more comfortable option is always easier, but not always what's better. We are often faced with these dilemmas, the easier, more comfortable path or the windy, harder path. And when we are younger, it's the easier path we choose. For me, getting to be here today, standing in front of all of you, is the result of taking the harder, windier, riskier paths. It has not always been easy, but things worth having aren't supposed to be. Since I first heard about chapel speeches and what they were, I knew I wanted to perform one. I heard my cousins and friends do them, and I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity for me to take a risk and go completely out of my comfort zone. And it would be a walk in the park. I can talk to people. I'm funny. I've given speeches before, so this shouldn't be a problem for me, right? Everyone makes it look so easy. No fear of public speaking, no nervous jitters or stutters. I can totally do this. Now, I know for some of you, I may come across as this confident and funny, even fearless guy, but you would be so wrong. I actually have a big fear of public speaking. In fact, sometimes when I was younger and I had to talk in front of large groups, my legs would start twitching and shaking, or my voice would randomly get all weird and I'd start sounding like I was crying. I promise you, I wasn't. So I thought that by the time I was older and I had gained more experience, I would be able to do it so easily. But I quickly found out how wrong I was when at the beginning of the school year, I got so nervous and introduced myself in front of all faculty as the new athletics school prefect. Since when did athletics become a grade band? Yes, it took me a few months to stop hearing it from my friends, but did that stop me? No. Instead, I went ahead and applied to give a chapel speech, to stand in front of all you here today and give a hopefully inspiring speech. And when I found out I would be giving a speech, I was so nervous to stand up here and talk that my voice would go all weird, my legs would start to shake, but I made a deal with myself when I applied. I decided that I would take the huge risk because I know I would beat myself up if I had the opportunity to perform a chapel speech and didn't because I was too scared. In the words of Michael Jordan, I can accept failure. Everybody fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. Fear is an illusion. I could not allow that for myself. For me, I knew that I would rather stand here before you today and talk about taking risks than to not bet on myself out of fear of embarrassment. So here I am standing here, taking a huge risk and facing my fears. I hear it's better when you picture the crowd in their underwear. It's not really working. Taking risks can be extremely scary. Not knowing how things will turn out, always focusing on the things that could possibly go wrong, even if they're a little far-fetched. And for many of us, it is the thought of failure that prevents great things from ever happening. Being scared and playing it safe because you're afraid of not making the team, or not applying for a leadership role because you're afraid of not making it, or worse, not asking someone out because you're afraid of rejection. But when you take a step back to really think about it, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? In the worst case scenario, you don't make that team, or you don't get that leadership role, or you don't get that date. You will survive. The only thing risk-taking shows that you are human. You will fail, and you are not perfect. Even though some of you may think you are not. We are all imperfect, and that's okay. That's life. Nothing gets handed to you, and nothing worth having comes easy. If you risk nothing, then you have nothing. Every single one of my friends knows that my dream is to one day become a doctor. This has been my dream almost my entire life. Every decision I've ever made, from choosing extracurricular activities, which high school to go to, what courses to take, and most importantly, which universities to apply to, have all been made with this one goal in mind. I knew that for me to fulfill my dream, I had to be different than anybody else. I had to make different choices. So when the time came to make the decision to which high school to go to, I thought that if I went to my feeder high school with all my friends, I wouldn't be challenged or stand out. So in grade 9, I made the decision to go to St. Thomas Aquinas for their International Baccalaureate program. I went there not knowing anyone except my mom, a teacher there, which definitely didn't help me out socially. But being in that program, one that was so different from anything I had known before, was for the sole purpose of reaching my goal. I took a big risk on myself, and I had to make it work. That same year, as I was doubting my place in this elite program, I took another risk when I received an offer to come to Appleby College and play on their hockey team. After meeting with some of the admissions teams and talking with my parents, I knew what this opportunity could mean for me to help me reach my goal. Fast forward to grade 12. I took all the required courses and applied for leadership roles. I completed most of my Duke of Ed. I volunteered and studied and did everything I could think of just so I can reach my goal to graduate here, get good grades, and get into medical school. So when the time came to apply for universities, I applied to the UK and Ireland because of their direct entry medical programs. If I could just get into these programs, I knew I would be set and on my way to being a doctor. I wouldn't have to spend 4 years of getting an undergrad and still not knowing if I was even good enough to be part of the highly competitive Canadian medical school programs. But after spending hours and hours perfecting my personal statement and studying for the entry exam for the UK, I ended up coming too short. No, not because of my height. Despite my hard work, I didn't get the required minimum score on the entry exam. Well, there went my chances of studying in the UK. But I still had Ireland. And after so much waiting, I finally got an interview with one of the schools. I was so happy. I thought this could be my chance. All the hard work this year, all the years before, all the risks I took to get here, this is it. The interview felt solid. I felt like I nailed it. There was no way I wasn't getting in. But a few weeks later, I got the email and read the dreaded words, "I regret to inform you." My heart dropped into my stomach. I thought to myself, that was it. My dream was over. My chances of becoming a doctor were done. All that work, all those long nights keeping my roommate up studying, all those risks, for what? I felt like a failure. I felt like I let a lot of people down who had been rooting for me and supporting me. And most importantly, I let myself down. But those of you who know me know I'm not the type to just give up and walk away. It took a few days, but with the help of some of my best friends, I soon realized that I wasn't seeing the full picture. So what that I didn't get into the schools overseas? I still had the ones here. I had received some acceptances to Ontario universities, and I thought that instead of focusing on the negatives, I needed to try to look at the positives. It was still very possible for me to accomplish my goal. Not going to Ireland or the UK was not the end of the world. Applying to these schools was a risk in itself. I applied fully aware that it was not going to be easy to get in. I took a risk and failed. But failing did not mean that I was a failure. Taking a risk and being okay with failing is never a mistake, but never taking the risk for yourself always is. It is hard for new and exciting things to happen to you when you always choose to stay inside your bubble, your comfort zone. How can you hope to grow as a person without taking a step outside and being comfortable with being uncomfortable? This is risk-taking. Taking risks doesn't always have to be as extreme as going to a school on a different continent. Risk can also be standing up for what you believe in, even if it means standing alone. Risk can be putting yourself in vulnerable positions, like giving a speech in front of a lot of people, even though it might be scary. But if we are afraid to do these things, how can we ever grow? You can't learn without failing, and it's pretty hard to fail without taking some risks. Yes, they're scary. Yes, it's definitely not easy. But in 5, 10, even 15 years from now, do you want to look back and regret all the things you didn't try because you were too scared? Or do you want to be able to live happily knowing that you took all those risks and learned from all those failures to be the person you are today? Please rise and sing hymn number 418.